Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. On Tuesday in my Facebook Live, I made this little card and we weren't sure if it was called a WV card or an accordion fold or some other kind of fancy fold, but whatever its name was, we loved it. So I want to show you the same card, but I'm going to do just a couple of different things. I want to step it up a little bit and I want to do some more stamping. This was cut from the designer series paper. Let me just show you. Two of the pieces have all of these little gnomes on, and you can just use the matching dies and cut them out. If you don't have the dies, you can fussy cut them. They're really easy to fussy cut because it's such a simple shape. But I really wanted to stamp them, and I wanted to use two of the different characters. I wanted to use this little guy with his light and this little sitting down one. So they're the two I'm going to use today, and I'm going to do a few different bits inside as well. But this is the same shape that we're making. And if you haven't seen this set, it's in the mini catalogue, the July to December one. And it's on page 42, and it's the Storybook Gnomes. And you can buy just individual pieces of it, or you can buy a whole suite, whatever works for you. I don't have the whole suite. I have the stamps and the dies, and if you buy those together, don't forget you can always get a 10% discount when it's in the catalogue for the first time. I don't have the ribbon. I do have the embellishments. I don't have this puff paint, but I do have this paper. And to make this card, you would only need the paper and a sentiment. So if you had a different sentiment at home that you wanted to use, you wouldn't even need the stamps for this. You could make it just with the paper. Okay, let me show you what we're going to do. When I showed this paper, there was one other piece of paper that I just fell in love with, and that was this piece. Oops, let's move these little pieces. And it has sort of trees, and it's a snowbank, but it was always almost like a mountain. And I just love this, and I wanted to use this on my card today. And if you've watched me before, you'll know one of my favourite colours is Night of Navy. So that's what I'm going to use. I have a few of the pieces already cut, but not everything. But if you hop on over to my blog, you'll find all the sizes and everything on there. So you don't need to worry about writing it down right now or listening and thinking, what was it she said? So it will all be on there. But our first piece, let me just open the arm ready. Our first piece is a full sheet of card, and I've got the Night of Navy, and I've got the shorter side, the 8.5 side at the top, and I'm going to cut it down to 5.5. So I'm just popping it in my trimmer, lining it up at the 5.5, and I'm going to cut with my cutting blade. The cutting blade is always the dark grey one. And you may notice that on mine, I have the lighter grey one at the top. When you get your trimmer, the lighter grey one is at the bottom. But all I did, people do ask me, all I did was take it down the trimmer, take this one out and change them over. I like my scoring one at the top. My very first trimmer had a score blade at the top, and so I've always just carried on with that because muscle memory, and if I had it at the bottom, I would probably end up, instead of scoring, I would be cutting. So I just have it that way round. Now, this 3.5 inch piece that we cut off, we're going to trim this down to 6. We don't need this piece at the moment. That's for another project. And then we're going to score this at 3 inches. Okay, and that's going to be the little V card, the little V card part. Now we're going to score our longer piece, and we're going to start at the left hand side. We're going to score at 4 inches. So just pop it in, line it up on your 4-inch mark. If you don't have a trimmer like this, you might have a scoreboard, and it's exactly the same. You just do the same measurements. So 4 inches, 5 3/4, 7 1/2, and 9 1/4. And we've finished with the trimmer for now, so let's put that away. Now, all of those scores that we've just made, at the moment, they look like they're on the right-hand side. You just need to turn your card around because that's going to form our W shape at the left-hand side. And the larger piece of unscored card is going to be the back of our card and the inside of our card. So we're not going to fold this piece yet. This is the part that's going to form the W. And I'm going to stand it on its edge so that you can see the W forming. Now, a W starts at the top and goes down. So we're going to fold this piece to make that shape. So top, down. The next piece goes up. So we're going to fold it back on itself. And you've got a V. And then we just do exactly the same again. We need to make another V. So we're going to fold it back and down. And once you look at your whole card, you'll see this W shape and then the very long piece. We're not counting that in the W. You've got your W here. And remember that other little piece that we cut, our 3-inch piece? We're just going to fold it in half and that forms the V. So these are the 2 pieces. That's the most difficult part done. Now, let's put our designer series paper on here. I told you that I was using the blue trees. It's got the snowflakes on the back, but I didn't want the snowflakes this time. I wanted this. And I've cut a piece that's 4 1/2 across by 5 1/4 long. If you have a design like this, it doesn't matter. You can just cut 1 1/2-inch strips. But because I have a pattern that's a continuous one and a directional pattern, I wanted to cut it like this so that the pattern moved along the card and you could sort of see the continuation of it. So I'm just making sure that I've got it all lined up. And these pieces are 1 1/2 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to get my little silicone mat as well. I'm just going to put adhesive on the back. You can use any adhesive that works for you. If you like wet glue or if you like a tear and tape, whatever works best. I'm just checking as I go along that I have the next piece in the right order. And these go on the little folds of the W that we've made. Oops, let's get that running again. There we are. So each of these is exactly the same size. I'm going to line up top and bottom. And I always use the first piece that I've put on already, and I use that as my guide. There's nothing worse than seeing sort of, your eye will see it if it's not in line. Probably the recipient won't, but sometimes if I put a piece of paper down and it's not quite in the right side, in the space that I want it to be in, getting it off can be a problem. If you've stuck it on with something like a stamping seal or a tear and tape, you can put a little bit of dental floss behind, push it behind the paper and it will peel off easily. Okay, so there are our 3 pieces of paper and they will be the pieces that we see at the front. Okay, so next I'm going to do some of the decoration because we can't put the card together until we've got the decoration done for the V. I'm going to put this on one side and I needed to cut 3 pieces of basic white. Oh, that one's got a little mark on. See if that comes off, otherwise I'll just turn it over. No, it's not going to come off, so I'm just going to turn that one over. So I've got 3 pieces of basic white and they are cut at 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. 2 of them will have stamping on and one will have, let me find my card, So these two will have stamping on, and this one I had designer series paper on, but this time I'm putting something different on there. So I'm going to do my stamping on here first, and I've got Night of Navy because that matches my card base, and I've got the same sentiments. I've got this one that says Warm Wishes. Actually, I'm just going to put it on a bigger block. I just feel like I want it on a bigger block while I'm stamping. Okay, I'm just going to tap it in here, and on my first card I had the sentiment at this right hand side, but this time I want to have it at the left. So I'm just going to move it down a little bit, and I apologise if you can't see it so well, but I just need to be able to see and not have my head on the camera for you. Okay, so there we are with Warm Wishes. Right, let's find where I've just put my stamp cleaner, because I'm going to use that same block. So I'm going to just clean my stamp and take it off and put my other sentiment on, which is the Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. You could make this for a birthday card, like a winter birthday. It doesn't have to be a Christmas theme. Let's take this next one, and this is going to go right at the top. Just leave me enough room to write my message to whoever I send the card to. There we are. And while we're stamping, I might as well do the rest of my stamping. So I'm going to close up my Night of Navy. I don't need that anymore, but I do need Basic Grey. And my little gnomes are going to be stamped in Basic Grey. And I like to do that because the grey doesn't look so stark. Sometimes when you stamp, and if you stamp in a basic darker colour like our Memento Black, it can really stand out. Whereas I find if you do the grey, it's a little bit lighter and it seems to blend in better. If you want to blend and have more of a watercolour effect, it's always good to use something like a crumb cake or a soft suede brown, and those lines seem to disappear easily. Okay, so I've got my basic grey. I'm just going to stamp my two little gnomes. So there's one, and here's the other. And can you see it's already not as dark, so it makes the stamping look much nicer, I think. I'm going to clean these two little stamps off as well, and then we can move those right out of the way. On my card that I made for the Facebook Live, I actually put 3 little gnomes in because I did one on the inside, but I'm only doing 2 today. Sponge was falling out. Okay, now let's do our colouring as well. So I'm using colours that coordinate with the Night of Navy, and on here you can see it's got Balmy Blue and the Night of Navy and a brown, and I thought I would use those as my base colours and just add a few accents. If you weren't sure what colour to colour them, you could always copy what they've done on the designer series paper, and you could use those colours. You can use crayons or markers. You could use your Stampin' Right markers. I'm going to use my blends, but honestly, whatever you feel most comfortable with colouring is good. And I have actually already coloured these and cut them out. So here are my 2 little people. These are the 2 that I'm going to use, but I'll just show you. I'll just colour one of them. You don't need to sit and watch me colour for hours, I know. So I've got my light Balmy Blue, and I'm going right up to the edge. I'm not the world's best colourer. You know, I don't profess to be an artist in colouring. I like colouring, but, you know, I sort of do my own little thing. I'm colouring with the light one, and I'm going to leave a patch in the middle for now. And I'm going to get my darker Balmy Blue, and I'm going to just go around the edges. This will give us just a little bit more depth and sort of a, you know, as though the light was shining onto this. And then I'm going to get my light one again, and I'm going to go over it in little circles. Now you don't have to use this large brush end. You can use the little bullet nib end if you feel more comfortable. And I'm going to go over all of it. And now I'm going to go over that gap that I had as well. And this way it just gives, you know, that illusion that the hat's not all the same colour. And I'll show you another little trick for that in a moment as well, once it's dried. You can see that these are going to dry slightly lighter than when they're wet. So don't think, oh, it's too dark, because they will dry a little bit differently. And I'm using just whichever blends I have. I've got Petal Pink here that I'm going to do his little nose with, and his little hands. I think it's a he. It sort of looks a bit like a he, but I'm not sure. Then I've got the darker one. I'm just going to go around his nose a little bit. And this side of his hand. And then let's use the bullet nib on the lighter one. I'm going to go over again. Okay. Now you can see that I've gone over his nose there. It wouldn't matter because I'm going to do his little beard, but if it did matter, you can use the colour lifter. And this, it doesn't really lift colours, it pushes them away. So you just colour over the top with the lifter, and it will push it right through the card. So you can't see it. You might need to do it a couple of times, but it makes the card wet, so wait in between before you do it too many times. And the colour will just disappear. And it does push it further through. You can't see too much because this is a lighter colour that I'm doing it on, but it does push it through the card. And also, when you use blends, you can see that it does bleed through the card all the time. So if you have a card where you are going to see the back, you might not want to use blends. If it's an element like this that's cut out, you can always cut another one out in just basic white, adhere it to the back, and then you won't see it. So if I use this kind of thing in a pop-up card, like a box card, I'll cut another, just the shape. I won't stamp on it, just cut the shape, glue it to the back, and then you can't see the colour that's come through. Okay, now his little shoes I did in the greys. So I have, let me see which one this is, light smoky slate. So I'm just going to go around his shoes. I'm going to colour the whole of his shoes in with this. I'm not going over right up to the edge, I'm leaving it a little bit. So I've got a tiny little gap round because the colour will push through the card a tiny bit. Now I've got the dark smoky slate, and I'm just going to do like a C shape around his shoe. And that's all. Then I'm going back to my light one. Just going round in a little circle. And you just get that extra colour. It's not really noticeable. It's not like when you colour with a felt marker and you get lines where the two colours have overlapped. It just blends into each other. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do that little hand. Let me go back to find my Petal Pink and do this little hand. I think my Petal Pink is nearly all gone. I think I might need to be getting a couple of refill pens. I'm going to put a little darker touch on there as well. That's better. It doesn't look so flat. Okay, now let's see, what colour did I use on his clothes? Oh, I think that's Pool Party. So I've got the light, light Pool Party. I'm just going to go do this little shirt and his little pants with. just a little bit at the left hand side here, not very much at all. And then, because it's only a small piece, I'm not even worrying about putting the lid back on here. Just doing a little bit more there. And then I'm going to go back over it in those little circle motion. Make sure I've got the bit done right at the bottom here. You could have such a lot of fun colouring these. And let your imagination go wild. Oh, and I've got a little piece here. There's just that little cuff on his sleeve there. And then I've got my bronze blend here, and that's the colour I'm going to use just for the little lantern. Now, I'm not doing any dark and light patches on it. I'm just literally going to colour the outside of the lantern in, all with the same bronze. Okay, and then, oh, that one's a really tough lid to put on, that one. And then I've got this light crumb cake, and I'm going to do his beard with this. I don't know if you can see, but the very end of the nib is going a lighter colour. That usually means that the ink is running out. I'm going to turn it round though. I will soon need another crumb cake set. I use this a lot. So I'm going to go underneath that little hand, do this little beard at the bottom. Now my darker crumb cake has already run out, so I can't do lots of highlights with the darker one. And so all I'm going to do is go over the lines that Stampin' Up have inked, that I've put on the stamp, and I'm just going to go over it a few extra times to make it look like there are some darker lines. If I had the darker crumb cake still available, I would probably go over those lines with the darker crumb cake and then go over everything with the light crumb cake. But you can see some depth of colour in there. Oh, let's do that little piece of his beard there. Okay, so the last little thing that I've got to do is the light. And I've got my dark Mango Melody, and I'm going to do just a little circle with dark Mango Melody like that. And then I've got my light So Saffron, and I'm going to go over the whole thing in So Saffron so that it looks like the very centre is sort of where the candle might be in the lantern. There we go. And I need to wait, for that to dry a little bit, and then all I'm going to do is put some Wink of Stella on. But while I just wait for that to dry, I'm going to show you, I said I would show you something else for the hat. If you use your colour lifter and just lightly, with the brush end on its side, just lightly go over, you will find that it lifts out some of the colour. It takes a few seconds, but you probably can see it happening. It will take a little bit more colour out and make it look like the light is shining that way. And you can do that as many times as you want. It will move the ink, but you don't want to rub too hard, else the paper might start to pill just a little bit. But you can just lighten. So if you think, oh, I shouldn't have coloured it that dark, look here, it's a bit dark here, just pop a little bit of the colour lifter on and it will start to come out. Okay, now this is dried enough that I can just put a tiny bit of Wink of Stella just in the middle, so that it looks like that light is really shining. I didn't have to prime my Wink of Stella because I'd already been using it, but ordinarily you might have to shake it, and then where it says push you might have to press to get some more ink down the barrel, or some more of the glittery shiny. Okay, and then all you need to do is either fussy cut or use one of your dies to cut these little guys out. And then we can start to assemble. So I'm going to do my V first. And on each of these sides, let me get my bone folder. See, that's got a little edge there. So on each of these sides, we're going to put a white piece. The first one will say Warm Wishes, and it will go just here. So let me get my little tape again. And this one goes on first. And there will just be a very small border all the way around. The next one is a plain piece of white. It's not the one with the stamping on. We need just a plain piece. Exactly the same size and everything, but it almost works just like a background layer because we're going to put something on it. And on Tuesday's card, I put designer series paper. But this time I've made an embossed piece of paper or card. And I've used this little wintry 3D set from the annual catalogue. And you can see that they're narrower than normal. And I like these for small details. I wasn't sure which one I wanted though. So I've done some of each. And I just run it through my mini cut and emboss. This is the leafy one. And then here I have one. I had the whole piece done with the snowflakes. And here I tried it in Balmy Blue, but I didn't like it so much in Balmy Blue. I actually liked the white on white. So I have the leaves or I have the snowflakes. And I still don't really know. So I might assemble the card and then put that last little piece on. Okay. This one is going to go on our card base. And that's the one I'm going to put on next. So here's our card base. You do need to go down this with your bone folder a few times because there are so many folds. You need it to be, quite crisp so that it stays down a little bit. It won't go flat, but at least it will stay down a little bit more. Now this piece is going to go on the inside, right in the middle like this. And I'm going to attach that first. And I really do love this card layout. I'd seen it on the Stampin' Up demonstrator website. Somebody had made one, and then I had a look and I saw that Rachel Tessman in the States had made one, and my friends, my Silver Sisters friends, who are also demonstrators in Canada with me, Tamara Bertram had made one, and Cindy Pigott-Smith had made one. So I think we all had the same idea last week, and it's such a nice card to make. Such a fun card. Now, to put the V on, it can be a little bit difficult because you don't want to see this white piece here. So you need to make sure that when it's glued on, that covers that white piece over. And the easiest way to do it is to have your card open. Put this little piece right over it, make sure it's nice and straight, and then I've opened it a tiny bit, and we're going to put adhesive here and stick the first part of our card flap down. But you can see that this only covers just over a third of it. So you only need some adhesive at the left hand side. Don't put too much on because otherwise your card won't open. It will stick together. I'm just going to put a couple of layers like this. There we go. I'm going to move my silicone mat out of the way. So I'm going to pretend that it's closed. I'm not going to fully close it. I'm going to lay it on top of that white piece. Check that I can't see it at the right hand side or sticking out anywhere. And then I'm just going to hold it still. I'm going to fold this first part of the fold over. I'm not going to press it down all the way until I've just checked that it's level. I want it just a little bit to the right hand side like that. Okay, and now I'm going to press it down. And then when I open it, it will be already attached to that inside fold, like the second part of the W. I'm going to close the whole of my card up, fold this over. Oh, there we go. So now I need adhesive just on this inside piece here. And again, it's the same. It's just over 1/3 of it. There we go. Just one more little line. There we go. And then I've got all my folds closed down tight. And I'm going to just push that over. And then our card, we know it will open perfectly and it's going to cover up the inside piece. And then while we've got it like this, let's have a look, see what we're going to choose. I love this tree. I love that. And because it's a spruce tree underneath here as well, that looks really nice. And I also love these snowflakes. Let's have a look. Have a look when it's closed. I think I'm going to go with the snowflakes on this one. I might make two, and I'll use the leaf one on the other one. Oh, hang on. I'm going to use this snowflake, I think. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to use this snowflake one. Now I'll have to make 3 so that I use all the pieces. I think I'm going to be colouring all afternoon. I'm going to lay this down. Just pop this on. And you'll only have a tiny weeny little border, but that's fine. Okay, and then let's put on our little gnomes. And I'm going to put these on with dimensionals. I'm going to have this little guy at the right, and this little guy on the left. I'm going to make it so that this one stands just over that one. You could glue these down flat. You don't have to have them standing up on dimensionals. And I think this card would probably be overweight. So I think you would end up having to pay a little bit more on packaging or mailing, just because it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of card already. So I know if I was sending this to the UK, I would end up having to pay extra. So it might be that this year these cards are my handing out personally cards. Oops, take that off. There we go. Take the backings off. Pop those away. You can make him overlap or just stand next to him, whatever you wanted. I might mine overlap just a little. There we go. And on my card on Tuesday, I used those little sequins, sparkle and shine sequins. But because I've got Night of Navy, I'm going to use my basic rhinestones. I love how the rhinestones look on navy. They look like little stars shining. So if I'm using Night of Navy, I always try and use this a set of rhinestones. And I don't see my pokey tool. I've hidden it somewhere on my table. So all I'm going to do is take them off with my fingers. I'm going to pop some on here. Oops. I'll put some on the front, and then I'm going to put some round the outside like I did with the little sequins last time. I loved the effect that when you opened it, you still saw the little stars or the snowflakes. And it doesn't matter how many you put on. You might not see all of them until the card is open, and that's okay. Let's see when it's closed. Let's have a look. See, I already can't see these two, but that's okay. I will see them when the card's open. So it looks like I've got 3 here, and then I'm going to do 5 on the back. Let's put one down here. There we are. And on the card during the week, I'd put another one of the little gnomes on, and I put him on the inside. If you put it at the right hand side, you won't be able to hide him. So when it's closed, you would still see just his feet. But if you put it on the left, on the inside there, you can't see, and it's like a little surprise when you open it. So I may well do another one. I might do some more colouring and put a little gnome on there as well. So there we are. That's my slightly different card in that I've done the colouring myself and I've done some embossing. But I hope you'll have a go at the card. It's really a fun one to make, and that would make a super little birthday card as well. You don't have to have it as a Christmas card. So that's my WV fold, and if you go and check my blog or use the link on the YouTube here, it will take you straight to the blog page. Thanks so much for watching me, everybody. I'll see you all again really soon. Take care and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.